Get started. My apologies for being late. We had another. My apologies for being late. We had another appointment and just got here as fast as we could. So let's call to order the Rapid City Area Schools Board of Education orientation meeting. Shirley, will you give us a roll call, please?
Troy Carr. Jamie Clapham.
She was absent with
Yep.
notice.
Yep. Just a second, please. Okay, it's not me. Christine Stephenson. Here. Donna Moore. Here. Michael Berkland.
Here.
Walt Schwan.
Here.
Katie Urban.
Okay, I invite you all to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I'll entertain a motion for the approval of the proposed agenda. So moved. Second. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed, say no. Okay, at this time, persons wishing to address the school board, we have two. You have 5 minutes. First is Tyler Gunhammer.
Will you please turn the mic on? There's a button to push up there. It'll turn green if you see it on the side of the mic, You see it? There you go. Thank you.
It's Taylor.
Oh, so I
Gunhammer.
apologize.
Taylor, I'm sorry.
Right on. Well, school board, I wish we could quit meeting like this. I think this is terrible. I'm sure you think it's terrible too. Anyway, to begin, I would like to call attention to you all holding this meeting at a time that most working people cannot attend it. And from the outward appearance, let me just say your strategy of minimizing public participation in the matters of the school district is going beautifully. Nice job. And I am uniquely suited to be here, and so is my colleague, but we bring with us the 200+ signatures on a petition demanding the removal of your superintendent, as we discussed just the other day. And those 200, I want to remind you, come pre-holiday. And this is not going away. This isn't going to wash off if you sprinkle some water on it. This will be ongoing. So now to get to the actual substance of the other meeting. We were told that it is a mistake to think that this board made a wrong decision regarding the superintendent. Now, I'm going to put aside for a moment the weird fascistic feeling of saying a thing like that, the weird authoritarianism. I'm going to look past that and express to you that not only is it our right, but our responsibility as community members to ask those questions, to question those results. If we feel you have made a wrong decision, to say so and have some redress of our grievances. We are absolutely entitled to that. And the way things are going, it's beginning to feel like we value Indigenous education in our community, and you do not. I'm flabbergasted that you can be so out of touch with the community that you're supposed to serve. We made a demand to reestablish trust, and you weren't interested. Instead, you gave the overseer of our oppression within this school district a 30-day paid vacation. I don't care if you like us saying that, that's what it is. And, you know, as taxpayers in this community, we pay your salaries. So You effectively told your boss that if your boss thinks you've made a wrong decision, not only have you not made a wrong decision, it is their mistake to even think that you did. Now, since you are so out of touch, just ask you for context. What do you think most working people would guess happens if you tell your boss that? I'll tell you, you get fired. Have a good day.
Second comment, Sunny Red Bear.
Hello, I'm Betty Washday. My name is Sunny Red Bear, as you know, and I come here today, again, to stand before you to address the dismissive and inadequate repercussions and accountability measures taken for the Rapid City area schools superintendent, who has openly demonstrated biases and ideologies that Native families do not value education. This ongoing failure to address such harmful behavior is painting a damaging picture for our community. I guess my question really is, who are we trying to please with this inadequate accountability? Why is it so difficult to take a strong stance and challenge systems, be it policies or practices or even people? Who are we trying to please? These positions were created because people believed in your leadership. But where does your loyalty truly lie? Is it with the kids who depend on a fair and just education system? Or is it with those who might challenge your power and position when their interests do not align with yours? It's time to make a clear decision and demonstrate genuine leadership. The community deserves to see accountability and a commitment to equity and justice for all students, especially our Native students. And I say that because I have to write these out. I get too emotional. I say that because I really question the accountability that was given, a 30 days suspension and cultural sensitivity training. Who is that pleasing? It's not pleasing the community. I think the community is speaking and showing that we're not happy with that. So who are we pleasing with it? Are we pleasing the superintendent? Are we pleasing our colleagues? Are we pleasing, who is it? Because at this point, we have a moment to be able to take a stance against racism that is being perpetuated in our school system. And I think it's our duty, you know, as Taylor said, it's our duty to be able to take a strong stance against those things, or else it will infiltrate and continue to spread in so many different ways on so many different levels. And if we're not holding the top accountable, it's going to trickle down. And we see that in so many different ways. If we flip that triangle upside down, we need to listen to the people. What are the people saying? We have over 200 signatures just from yesterday of saying this isn't enough. So what are we going to do about it? And I think that we have an opportunity still. I think it lies right in front of us to be able to do something different. And so I just want to encourage and also challenge to be able to come back together collectively to make a better decision. And I don't want each individual on the school board being able to hide behind the collectiveness of a school board. You all need to ask yourselves personally, individually, where do you stand on this? Where do you stand on racism? Will you make a strong stance? And I think that's a personal issue. And I think it's a personal question that each of you need to ask yourselves, you know, going home tonight. And I did write each and every one of you an email before I came here today as well, just kind of outlining some of the things on the petition. I've also attached the petition with this link. If you want to look through it, it's detailed very, there's a lot of information there, a lot of background and what we're wanting to see and how we're wanting to move forward. So I look forward to hearing back from you. Thank you.
Right. Board response to open forum comments. I don't have my computer up just yet, so. Mr. Berkeley.
I just want to say thank you for always coming and always sharing those opinions. I did just want to say that this is not a regular meeting and that I personally would not be for having a regular meeting in the middle of the day. And so that is one thing that I just did want to know. And kind of along those same lines, because of that, I don't have much more to say right now because it has just been those few hours. But that I appreciate it as we continue to have these discussions.
Okay, anybody else? Right, I do have a comment. I do want to apologize, Mr. Gunhammer, of giving the impression. I realize the statement that you quoted and the way that I said it gave the indication that I negated your opinion of how you feel things should be done. So I apologize for that. That was not my intention. My intention was just express my opinion, so I apologize for that. And again, to Mr. Berkland, this is actually not a regular meeting. It's an orientation for old board members and new board members. So that's why we're meeting at this time. And I hope Miss Red Bear, I can't see you, so. So I also sent you an email about really wanting to sit down and talk and have conversation. And again, since you are my boss, and I really believe that, I would hope that I would have be able to have a conversation and explain what I said and hopefully be able to keep my job. So any time we're able to connect would be wonderful.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, moving on. Any other board members? All right.
Am I able to respond quick?
Yes, I'll give you, yes.
Just one, yeah, okay. I appreciate that. And I did get your email and hopefully we can schedule something very soon. And then also in forwarding the petition as well, hoping to get a response back from that. If not, then we'll go ahead and send that to the Department of Education. So furthering that petition. So I appreciate all of your time today. Thank
All
you.
right, thank you very much. All right. Conflict of interest, seeing none. Item number 7, items for discussion. Okay, times may vary as we're somewhat already behind. So at this point.
They have things to do because I can see.
Sure, we can do that. Okay, we have our directors here. The other reason why I'm struggling is because I don't have my glasses, so I can't halfway see what's going on. But our directors are here to introduce themselves, introduce their departments and what they do, so we can all put a face with a name and a department. So I don't know if you all did rock, paper, scissors to see who's gonna go first, but. Okay, there we go. Yes. Thank you.
I did bring my glasses, so I
Yeah.
can. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen of the board. My name is Jennifer Strong. I'm Director of Federal Programs for Rapid City Area School District. I'm very proud to hold this position and feel that we do really, really wonderful things in federal programs in all of our titles. So today I'm going to discuss with you a little bit about what happens in federal programs, a little bit about our budget from last year. We do not have our official numbers for this year, so they are not on this handout. When I come to you at one of our work sessions, I will have the official numbers for all of our title programs, as well as the other monies that we budget and allocate and work with in federal programs, okay? So just a little bit of background. First page is my contact information. Please feel free to reach out should you have any questions on any of the programs that we're going to discuss or look at today. If you turn the page to the second page, you will see some of the programs that we work with. Of course, Title I, Title I-D, Title I-C, Title II, Title III, Title IV, McKinney-Vento. We used to work with ARP and ESSER, which those ended at the end of this fiscal year as of 3 days ago, right, Coy? Yay, we could put those to rest. 3 days ago, those are ARP and ESSER funds were funds that were
That was me.
that were primarily used for, in response to our COVID funds, and were used partial funding also for our brand new middle school, our private school funds, and then our Title VI Indian education funds. So those are about 80% of the funds and the flow through our federal programs allocation. We also manage other grants that other schools in the district apply for. If they are a grant over $500, so let's say we have a PTO that applies for a $4,000 grant at Wilson, we manage those funds for the PTO as well, because anything over 500, we are required to report on in some federal capacity. It might be to the state, it might be to their awarding agency. So we help modify, or we help manage those funds. And then we also help with reporting of those funds as well. So last year, our flow through federal programs was about $30 million. We anticipate this year will be about $34 to $38 million with the extra funding and extra grants that are coming through and the flow through various agencies. We also partner with Black Hills Special Services on 2 other grants right now, the 21st Century Grants, which number at about $4 million. They manage that. However, we're still a partner with them. So federal programs does help with the management of those funds as well. And then we're also partnering, which Dr. Strasser will give to you in a report at the end of the week, on an EIR grant with Black Hills Special Services. This EIR grant through the federal government, the ESEA Act, will provide opportunities for recruitment and retention, some creative recruitment and retention opportunities with our teachers. We're going to be partnering with local universities, Black Hills State, USD, SDSU, OLC, and Santa Gleska for some recruitment and retention. This will involve some mentoring with our new teachers coming in to then increase, because we know statistically that providing not just a mentor, but a quality mentor to a new teacher in the district increases their likelihood of retention past year 5 by 80%. And that really kind of is the magic number. Year 2 to year 5 is when we're having our highest dropout rates of our new teachers coming into the profession. And so we really want to grab a hold of them in year 1 and 2, and then support them through year 2 and 5. So we are applying for several other grant opportunities. We're applying with, I can't remember what his Pennsylvania Bill is what we call him locally. He is our grants guy in Pennsylvania. We're also working on some other grants that I know Coy and Jade have brought to you. We are working on some $4 and $5 million grants to provide some staffing for social workers and some mental health support in the district as well. So we've got a lot of things going on in federal programs, a lot of grants we're working on, really trying to do what's best for kids in all capacities to support them, however that looks, regardless of their demographics and regardless of what part of the town they live in, but really to provide that opportunity to create equalization so all of our students truly do succeed, which is what Every Student Succeeds Act, that's exactly what it names, Every Student Succeeds. So if you look at the 3rd page, student groups who we are accountable for reporting to the state. This is not just a South Dakota Department of Education guideline. This is a federal program guideline. We are required to report out, which Shane in Skyward is so wonderful at gathering this data, and Vicki, his wonderful counterpart, aggregates this data for us. These are the subgroups that we are responsible for reporting, the 14 subgroups. The only kicker is if we have a subgroup in a school that does not have an N size of 10 or larger, then that subgroup is not reported to the state, because that is a violation of FERPA. Knowing that if we have, let's say, 5 or less students who are Hispanic at one of our elementary schools, that subgroup is not reported because it's easy to identify who those 5 students are, and that's a violation of their privacy. Okay, so here, that's the only caveat to these subgroups is they have to have an N size larger of 10 in order for that to be reported to the state and then reported back to us. So part of this report out is the report card that we also see reported on our district page and how we're graded, also how our schools meet the CSI and TSI designation. For the bottom 5% as CSI designation and the bottom 15% for TSI designation, which I'll go over this much more in depth when we have our work session, just kind of verbally vomiting on you for about 2 minutes. So this is important for these subgroups to know that this is how we report to the state the numbers that we have attending Rapid City area schools, okay? You turn the page, again, then you see our private school. This is our private school allocation from last year. We are also required by the state and federally to provide a portion of our monies that we receive through our federal funding grants to our local privately accredited, they have to be an accredited school through one of the 3 nationally recognized accreditation agencies in the nation. If they're private, but they're not accredited, they do not qualify to receive the federal funding. They have to be an accredited institution in order to receive these types of funding. So we have, as part of our set aside, we have three or four different set aside categories in our federal funds. And one of the set asides is for our non-pubs. We call them our non-publics, our non-pubs. And we meet with each of our 10 non-pubs every year. I meet with them at the beginning of the year, middle of the year, and end of the year. Hey, here's what you get. How do you want to spend it? Let's help you spend money. Woohoo. And then they tell us what they want us to order. We do the ordering for them. We do the delivering for them. We grant asset tag everything for them. Everything is theirs. And then if we do have a school, for instance, we had a non-public school this year that decided not to accept our funds, then they are required by law to return any Title I, Title II, and Title IV fund belongings, assets that they have back to the school since they are no longer recognized as receiving those funds. Okay. If you turn the page again, kind of going through this fast, but I don't want to take up more of your time. I want to give everybody else some time to speak a little bit anyway. So the funds are to be used to supplement, not supplant. Whenever you use federal funds, our federal funds, Title I, II, 3, 4, and 6 must be used to supplement, not supplant. So for instance, if district-wide, we decide we are providing a science curriculum to every school district-wide, but we don't have enough to provide to this school, or it's a new school, or they don't get the curriculum or something, we cannot use federal funds to buy them that curriculum, because then we are supplementing, or excuse me, we are supplanting instead of supplementing above and beyond what the district provides for everybody else. Same with teachers. If every school is provided a counselor, but this school didn't get a counselor because whatever funding, we cannot use title funds to pay for a counselor for that school, because then we are supplanting and not supplementing. So that's the number one rule of any title program, regardless of what numbers after it. We cannot use the funds to supplant. They must be used to supplement above and beyond. That creates the equalization component of the federal funding. Okay. I'm going kind of fast. Are there any questions yet? Can I finish the last page, Christine? Okay, awesome. And then the last page is above and beyond. This is the carryover from last year in each one of those programs. And the carryover is the money that is a percentage that is not spent from the prior year. There is no limit on carryover in any of our title programs except for Title I. Title I, we are not allowed to carry over more than 15% of our funds. So we have to spend down. This year, we were awarded over $6 million in Title I funds for our schools. And so we have to spend down 85% of that $6 million, because we can only carry 15% over. And whatever we don't spend of that 15%, then we lose for next year. So we want to be very diligent about what we're spending our money on, very purposeful and very specific, which most years is okay, because we can use people, we can use an extra literacy person, we can use an extra para, we can always use extra people, but we know since we're in a staffing shortage, it's been difficult the last couple of years to fill those positions. So that's our carryover. We will have then the other programs, Title II, Title and Title IV and Title VI, there's no limit to how much they can carry over from year to year. They just have to spend their carryover money first before they can spend the fiscal year money. Okay, Christine, I'm all yours.
Thank you. Thanks for this. I really needed this overview. The only question I have, because you said you would get into this in more detail at another time.
When we have our work session, where we go into detail of what the specifics of every single title, here's what the laws and requirements are, here's what the allocation is. So I don't remember
So
from
at
this
the
year.
retreat.
Maybe at the retreat or whatever you guys wanted, and we can do whenever you want.
Okay.
Yeah.
I guess my question, because I think you can answer it quickly. Title I, we have 10 title schools. What are the 3 SIG?
Now we have nine,
Now we have
nine,
nine.
because Canyon Lake was a title school, so now we have 9. And so our SIG schools are schools that are designated. There's a state program that recognizes, it really is, it's a community growth model is what it is. So they recognize in urban development and community development, if there are neighborhoods within a community that meets certain requirements, it might be demographic, it might be the financial, it might be a myriad, there's a criteria list about this long. If you have a neighborhood that has, it might have be a crime rate, it might be improvement by the city, it might be the height of the buildings. There's some ridiculous one, but there's a list a mile long. If you meet 80% of that requirement, then you're considered an SIG block in the community or unit in the community. If you have a school that falls within that block, then that school is automatically declared 100% Title I. So the students don't have to fill out their free and reduced form. They are 100% Title I, non-negotiable, regardless of anything else. But that unit or block within the community meets these requirements. So therefore, the schools within that area automatically receive 100% of their allocated allotment for Title I funds. So for instance, North is an SIG school, so they receive their funding formula. Allotment looks different than, for instance, Wilson, because Wilson is not an SIG area. Does that make sense? So then the ones that are not an SIG receive proportionate allocations based on the percentage of free and reduced qualifiers in the school.
Okay, so the reason I'm asking is because I've heard people say, well, we're a title school, but the district has some leeway in how much of a title school we are.
No, it's all based on a funding formula. So
Okay.
for instance,
Okay,
Wilson, we'll just use Wilson because I like to pick on Brad. Wilson is 36%, has 36% of their population is free and reduced as of right now. So of that whole big $6 million, their ADM, and it doesn't mean that this Wilson gets less, their students gets less, it means their percentage is less. So at the same number, so $10 here for this per student, but 100% at North looks different than 36% at Wilson. 1, because it's a smaller population school, and 2, it's a smaller percentage. Does that make sense?
okay,
So that's why those allocations look different per school.
okay. So it's not somebody at RCEC
No,
saying like.
I'm not going, oh,
I'm
you get
gonna
some,
be the
but you
fairy,
don't.
The title
No.
fairy.
No.
Okay, it's all based on a formula, but the
Yes, ma'am.
amount that each school gets is different based on their percentage.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
That's 100% based on their percentage of free and reduced.
Okay.
And of course, their population too, you know. So just because you're 100%, like, so for instance, Horace Mann and Knollwood are both 100%, but their allocations look different because their population numbers are different.
Okay,
Does that make sense?
yes,
Okay.
and those are the other 2 SIGs.
So Horace Mann, Beetle, Knollwood, and North.
Oh, we have 4 now.
Mhm.
Okay, thanks.
Absolutely.
Mrs. Urban, I see your hand. Mr. Sassy, were you gonna answer this question?
Just have one thing to add. Very briefly, to Christine's question, I think what you're referencing, Christine, and we have had some conversation about this in the past, is actually regarding free and reduced lunch, which obviously is deeply tied into the components of how a school will qualify for a title, being a title school. And there is some what I would call flexibility in terms of, given the amount of free and reduced lunch that the district qualifies for, how student nutrition will execute that program. And generally, we try to match it alongside of the qualification for title in terms of what the population looks like and layer it that way. Because essentially they're getting an allotment of funds as well to use for free and reduced. So I know that conversation has happened and maybe that's in referencing some of those things causing some confusion. So I think that's another thing we could get some additional clarification on. It's really complex. It's an interesting environment. So, but I know we have had that conversation in the past.
All right, Mrs. Urban.
Thank you. Okay, so when I was on the campaign trail, I heard a lot from teachers specifically about behavior issues. And one of the things they talked about was, one time, I think there were federal funds that paid for deans in some of our title schools,
Mhm.
and some of those have been removed.
No,
None of them?
so up until this, we're actually, Dr. Strasser and I are rewriting the methodology for this upcoming year. Up till this point, all deans in the district were only paid with title, except at Central. And Central was paid because it was a title qualifier. So it qualified for title funds, but didn't receive title funds because many years ago, the district decided that it was much more imperative to put the title monies invest the title monies in at a prevention level instead of an intervention level. And so moving forward, we are going to have deans and APs at different buildings based on a couple different steps, based on some of the special ed rooms that are in those also. But up to this point, outside of Central, all deans in elementary schools have been paid out of only title.
And they haven't been removed out of the buildings? None of
No,
them have?
ma'am. Now, if the position is at full, it's because they don't have applicants, but they have not been removed.
Thank you.
Did I answer your question?
Yes.
Okay.
All right, any more hands? I see none. All right, thank you very much. That was a great report. Appreciate it.
Thank you, President Carr. Thank you, Board.
Next.
All right, thank you, Board. My name is Shane Daniel. I'm the Director of Information and Technology. Don't have a presentation, I apologize.
We got paper the last.
Yeah,
one.
But I will send a copy of the presentation I did in January to the two new board members that kind of goes over stuff in more detail. I've worked in the private sector in IT for 20 years, and this is my 11th year here in the school district. The role of our department is really to take care of anything with the power cord, pretty much. That's my elevator speech. So we have about 18,000 computers, 800 printers, 4,000 iPads. We take care of all the networking infrastructure, all the planning, support for all the software. We spend a lot of time dealing with vendors, like as contracts come up and that type of thing. So that's the overview of my department. I've got a staff of 27. It's pretty much organized just like something you'd see in the private sector. We have programmers and a couple business analysts. We have technicians, we have 3 trainers, that kind of thing. So if you have any questions, I guess I can certainly answer them, or if you have questions anytime, you can just email me and I can give you some info. So that's all I got.
Did you get the NFL package ready for?
We're working on it, so.
We're working on it, all right.
I gotta make sure we don't violate state law first, so.
Oh, okay, there's that, then there's. that.
Yeah.
And so, board members, you have any questions for Mr. Daniels? Mr. Stephenson.
Yeah.
Thanks. Oh, Shane, I have so many questions. Do you manage could you, and because I constantly need a refresher in this, could you give us overviews of Skyward, Google Classroom, Canva, what I feel like for an orientation, but also just a reminder, because we hear these things all the time.
Yeah.
Is that your department or?
Okay, so Skyward, we support Skyward, and that's kind of it's got everything that we need to run the organization. It's got your student information system, your grade book, all of your accounting functions, accounts payable, general ledger, your purchasing, inventory, so it's special ed, so everything kind of exists in there. Canvas is a learning management system, which Jennifer can explain about too, but that's where, you know, teachers use that daily in their classroom. It houses curriculum instruction. It'll hook up with certain publishers' software, and it also integrates with Skyward for the grade book. So, and Google Classroom it's called an LMS, and it is, but it's much, you know, we use the free version, and so it's a lot less robust, it's simpler. It doesn't mean it's bad, it's just a different product. So and we don't have, we at one point in time, Skyward had kind of an LMS, but it wasn't really user friendly, so we don't do anything with that kind of functionality in Skyward, so.
So Canvas is the preferred LMS now.
Yeah, and it's usually for secondary, that's why we don't put it for elementary, because like it's used at the college level quite a bit. Elementary, you know, they're not on their computers as much as secondary, you know, so to have, and just my opinion, to have like a district LMS for elementary, I think I don't know how important that would be compared to the secondary, so.
Okay, and then the middle schools, just for clarity, is it a sure thing that they're transitioning to Canvas next 2 years?
Yeah.
In 24, 25 or 25, 26 or at all?
Yeah, they're starting it. I think training started already for it. So it'll be available to all staff starting next school year. And there's a pretty detailed plan for a rollout, and it's a slow thing. It's not like, they're going to all immediately start using it with proficiency. East has been using Canvas for, I think, 5 or 6 years. So we've kind of, you know, went through, we know like what works well, what doesn't. I have 3 digital educators, and they spend a lot of time working with Canvas with the classroom and stuff and teachers. So, and then TLI has some people that are really proficient in Canvas also, so.
Is the goal to phase out the use of Google Classroom? That would be ideal.
For secondary, I think most of them, they're probably just going to start all using Canvas over time. I think there'll be some that'll probably still use Google Classroom, but I think that's going to be the minority over time.
And then state of hardware, do we need to know anything for the coming years? Like any big purchases that we're going to need to?
Well,
do we have on the radar?
this next year, this will probably be the last year of our student laptops for high school. And I talked about that, I think, in January. So the 25-26 year, we'll do a refresh for the high school laptops. And we're starting to have discussions about whether or not we're going to go with Windows machines still or go to Chromebooks. So, and that's ongoing. So hasn't been decided yet.
And we're at Chrome for all the elementary and middle.
K8, yep. K8's Chromebooks. And then high school, we're using Windows machines.
Okay. Thanks.
Yeah, you bet.
Mr. Swan.
I remember hearing from Nicole, I believe, that the state was paying for Google Classroom, and then if we chose to use it, it was going to become our expense. Is that right?
No, Google, we use the free version of Google Classroom. The state doesn't pay anything for it. And and I don't know much about like the paid version, because we never really had a big initiative to switch over to that, or even how much it is. But the state doesn't pay anything for the version that we use for Google Classroom. So
Thank you.
Yep.
All right, any other questions? Thank you, Mr.
All right, thanks.
I could just add to the conversation about Canvas, and we had talked about trainings that were occurring in June with our staff, and looking at some of the numbers that were sent to me recently. So our middle school teachers that are learning Canvas in the month of June, I believe is how I'm reading this, 158 staff members. And that does not include the staff from East, since they've already been trained and have been utilizing Canvas for quite some time. We've had 102 staff complete level 1, and 183 have done both level 1 and level 2. And there's 3 levels. 3 is pretty high level. I really can't break it down for you, but I think we're on the right track with doing so. And we've got quite a few signed up already for our August trainings on level 1 and 2 and level 2. So we're well on our way to getting people acclimated to using Canvas.
Thank you, that was helpful. All right, thank you.
Since it seemed like a few of those things relate to my department, I thought I'd come next. My name is Jennifer Roberts. I'm the Director of Teaching, Learning, and Innovation and Career and College Readiness. Teaching, learning, and innovation largely encompasses staff development. While there certainly are individual staff development pieces that happen at every building that are particular to that building, teaching, learning, and innovation helps oversee the ones that are more district-wide so that we have more consistency between buildings and then for staff as well. And that we can kind of assure that it has the quality and meets the criteria that we need to. Not saying anything bad about principals doing their own, but then we just see between 22 buildings that there's just a more of a level playing field in what people receive. And so it's between roles. It's not all necessarily teachers. It certainly is, there are some things that go for all staff, and then there are things that are for paraprofessionals, things that are just for teachers, that kind of thing. We also do things, the floating professional development days. So there are some of those that are more on demand that staff can attend those trainings and do those trainings at their own pace and on their own time range, you know, kind of what works for them. So TLI sets those up. We also work with curriculum and curriculum resources. We set up committees of teachers from whatever level that we're working with across the district to make sure that everyone has a representative, that we're getting as much relevant input as we possibly can. We do research, we run pilots, we seek feedback from all of our stakeholders. And then once something is adopted, we help provide training, again, to make sure that it is equitable throughout buildings at different levels and for all of the staff. We manage those resources where we're placing the orders, we're taking them in, we're making sure that they get to the proper buildings, that they're all marked as district property, that the ones that are no longer used are being removed, those types of things that are going on with curriculum. We help teachers with instructional support. If there's requests from a principal that we help support their staff, or from individual teachers, we provide different things that way. We help the professional learning communities, which is some of our early releases. We do a lot to support those things and how they're run in buildings and, you know, the work that they're doing. Our professional learning communities work a lot with data cycles where the teachers are, say they're giving a pre-assessment. What do students know about this topic? They're doing the instruction, they're doing assessment as it's ongoing. How is the instruction working? You know, are students learning? Is it effective? And then evaluating things at the end. That's part of what the PLCs do, and TLI department helps support that. We work with assessments, those that are given by the state that are state required, the MAP that are done to help just measure student progress throughout the school year, the pre-ACT, which is given to our 8th and 9th graders, the ACT, which is given to our 11th graders, the college and career readiness test that we've been given. We work with the advanced placement exams to determine whether or not students have earned credit for their AP courses. We help with dual enrollment for students that are taking their classes at college for both college credit and high school credit. And we also support accreditation to help keep our Rapid City area schools in line with what the Department of Education for South Dakota expects, so that we're all in good standing and our schools are accredited. We help mentor new teachers. Just a lot of those kinds of programs is really what TLI does. Any questions about TLI?
No, but are you done with your presentation?
No.
Okay. I'll save mine.
Okay.
No, I'll make it.
Okay.
This is why we have you all present, because now I know that there's an idea that we talked about at lunch that would go under your
Probably mine.
department.
Yeah.
And so it's important, maybe Mrs. Urban and Ms. Stephenson, that we get with Ms. Roberts and with Dr. Strasser. And let me also have a caveat. I have a concept of called the board going upstairs and minding their business. And I believe in that principle to allow you all to do what you need to do. But there are some things that are dear to our heart and very important for us to happen, and this is one of those things. So I don't want you to feel, or anybody to feel that I don't want you to feel like we're telling you what to do as we tell you what to do. So, but this is a concept. I think it's gonna be important. It's one of the things that the board has promised that we would do. And so now I'm realizing that you're gonna be an integral part of that.
Well, noticing some of the things that the board has promised that we'll do, we've been looking into that
Okay.
and we're already working on it.
Okay,
So,
wonderful. Thank you so
okay,
very much.
you're welcome.
All right.
Um,
Stephanie.
If you're
Yeah.
taking questions about TLI, welcome to your new position.
Thank
Thank you. It's very exciting. I feel like we held a listening session this last year, also for board, well, Katie, I think you might have been there, but like for staff recruitment and retention, and we heard pretty clearly that that PD, that it is really important for staff satisfaction to have PD that's meaningful, relevant. And I wonder, also specifically targeted PD,
Yes.
I wonder if you have some goals or what direction you'd like to take the PD and of this district.
Well, one of the things that we're working on is understanding that we do support principals and we support all of the buildings. So we have for years, that TLI has for years, been supporting the things before school starts. But buildings have been a little bit more on their own throughout the school year. And our goal is to provide more support for those because that's our area. And so we want to partner with those to make sure that they're getting what they need, but also because we've done maybe more of it. And maybe there's more than one school that needs a particular thing. We feel that we're in line to be able to support that. And just this morning, I was talking with some staff and also with Dr. Strasser about working to develop a 3 to 5 year professional development plan and some of the things for the TLI department. So yes, that we're working on it.
I love that. I just at a high level, when I hear about each school doing its own PD, first of all, I'm like, well, where's the economy of scale there? It can't be that every school has very specific and very different PD needs. But then also the inequalities, inequities that develop from that when you have one school that's all in on science of reading and one school that's doubling down on, what is that? Leveled reading or balanced literacy. Yeah, those things to me just don't make for a strong district.
And there is a lot that's going on with reading, has been this year and there is next year. AIM, which I don't know what those letters stand for. I don't know if anyone else does, but it is a part of things with the science of reading. And we have had a lot of our elementary administrators go through that training for the administrator level. Some of the new ones that are coming on are in the process. I will be doing it myself because I think that it's very important. And then our staff is going to be doing that, our elementary staff and middle school as well. And we are committing to that for this next school year. And that is a part of the science of reading. And South Dakota Department of Education has a lot of support for that. So we've had some people go through it with their support previously, but we are picking up to make sure that just because someone didn't take advantage maybe of that opportunity previously when the state was offering it, that are carrying it through for our entire district.
So will it, just as a side note, will it no longer be, I had teachers talk to me when I got on the board saying, we do it this way at this school and a completely different way at another school. And the teachers don't, if the teachers move from one school to another, they have to learn a new way of teaching basically to fit in with that community. And the students, if they move from one school to another, they have a totally different way of being taught to read. Is that gonna go away?
We are working to reduce that significantly. And we also understand that different schools serve different populations that sometimes have different needs. So we need to be able to adjust for that. I can't say that, you know, it's going to be one way across the board for all buildings because that's not appropriate. You know, just like if I said, well, I'm going to do this with my class. I haven't met them yet. I don't know. I need to assess what they need and I need to get them what they need. So that varies and we need to be able to adjust to that. I think that is part of the art and science of education. That being said, can we align better and should we align better? Yes.
I appreciate your responses.
Okay.
Dr. Strasser.
Just to, excuse me, to add to that, it is very challenging to personalize across the district because we're talking about 22 buildings and hundreds of staff. But that is something that we have had significant conversations about. How do we bring more relevancy to the professional development that we want for our teachers and our staff in general? So we are emphasizing that as we move forward. And I know Ms. Roberts and I have had a lot of conversations about how do we effectively use our floating PD days, because those were new last year and we want to improve on those for this year. It's always bringing relevancy and things that teachers and our staff need in order to do their work really well. So we also want to emphasize that sometimes that training piece, the AIM pathway, the science of reading, is important for everybody to be trained on, and how they utilize that in their classrooms should look very similar. But as Ms. Roberts noted, there's always going to be differences based on your classroom and how you need to work with your kids from day to day. But if they're all trained according to the science of reading, we should have much more commonality, which I think will benefit all our students.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
All right.
So the other part that is part of my department is college and career readiness. And so we work with the pathways that the high schools are doing, and we work with up through middle school and even down. So there is a 8th grade career fair. And so we're talking with students about options and opportunities and helping them explore some of their possible interests before they even enter high school. So that's some of the work that College and Career Readiness does. They work with CTE, the Career and Technical Education courses. Our Student and Family Engagement Coordinator is under our CCR, and our teammates, person who oversees mentoring for students, is also there. So quite a bit of work that's going on as we're preparing students for college and career, whatever that might look like for them. And as you know, that's a very wide range. But we want to meet students where they are and understanding that knowing what their interests are, knowing what their skills and talents and the things that they might want to do helps bring more relevance to their education. And of course, increases their engagement and interest in school. So that's
Thank you.
part of what I do.
Is your hand up? Or?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay. So,
Right, anything else?
okay.
That was helpful. Thank you very much. Okay. Oh, before you speak, board, I'm doing a lot of apologizing lately, but I missed, Mrs. Parker, don't you have a presentation? Part of orientation? Okay, and that's not on our agenda, so I'm sorry I didn't notice that before we approved it, but we need to motion to amend it to add her.
Are you wanting to exec for that? Yes.
We're going into exec for the orientation.
Yes.
Your portion of the orientation. All right, thank you for the clarity. All right, thank you.
Good afternoon, board. Special welcome to Ms. Urban.
Ms. Moore. My name is Gary Manuel. I'm the Director of Human Resources. Just a little bit about myself. I've been in human resources for over 33 years. I would like to think that I've seen everything, but I can tell you in my past 2 years here has allowed me to say I hadn't seen everything. But a little bit of an overview of the department. We have a total of 13 individuals in human resources, including myself. I have 3 managers, payroll manager Ellen Larson, human resources manager Heather Lowe, and district nurse manager Satira Thompson. Essentially, the operational group fall under Heather Lowe. That would be the generalist, the associate generalist, the recruiter, the benefits specialist, and the substitute specialist. Under the payroll manager, essentially 2 payroll specialists, and then under the district nurse manager, all of the district nurses. General, in terms of what we do, everything from start to finish with employees. That would be starting with recruiting, and then the hiring process, onboarding, and then we get involved into things such as their benefits, obviously their pay, their payroll. We deal with the negotiated agreements on an annual basis. The HR team does quite a bit of background and legwork to help COI in that process, and also support Ms. Parker in the negotiations as well. We also obviously answer a lot of questions that employees may have regarding either anything within that negotiated agreement, policies, procedures, et cetera. There's a lot of paperwork. There's a lot of things that go on behind the scenes in human resources. It's not glamorous, but it's necessary. And it's very important that all of the work that we do is accurate and correct. And so we strive to make sure that we are doing that and meeting that. That's kind of it in a nutshell. I don't want to get real long-winded here, but I'm certainly willing to answer any questions anybody may have about human resources.
Yes, ma'am. Mrs. Stephenson.
Thanks, Gary. I'm always thankful for HR people because I am not a detailed process and procedure person. One of the goals that we had as board last year was recruitment and retention. And did you end up are you starting to keep track of numbers of retention? And
so everything what we were looking at, essentially measuring number of applicants that come in. What I really want to try to focus on is where are those applicants being driven from? What's giving us the most success as it relates to, say, advertising? For example, the Home Slice Media just recently has done very, very well for us. And it is pushed specifically into those high need positions, the bus drivers, the paras, et cetera. And I'd like to see us expand that now more into teacher positions. Obviously, we are not the only district that has the challenge of filling teacher positions. We're encountering kind of that perfect storm. Fewer students, college students are getting into teaching, and more teachers are leaving the profession, and it's leaving a big void. So we have to come up with some perhaps non-traditional ways to get teachers. One of the things we talked about was individuals who maybe are looking for a career change. Maybe they're looking to get out of the for-profit world and maybe always wanted to teach and not know what to do. So we are here to assist and help them. But I'd like to see us start focusing on those types of things. Metrics, obviously, in all aspects. Just because you can measure it doesn't mean you necessarily have to, but I think we identify some very important things as it relates to the staffing pillar. We've created some really areas where I think it's very important to measure when you get into turnover. Why are people leaving? What is driving those types of things? One of the things we also talked about was most organizations do exit interviews. We want to do stay interviews. We need to focus on our high performers that we potentially could be losing for whatever reason. We need to know what we can do better, what might be something that we can provide to them that may change their mind not to want to leave the district. So there's a lot of different things that can be done, and there's a lot of things that we still need to sharpen ourselves on and think creatively. And you know, we're always welcome to ideas, suggestions from anybody to have those discussions about what can we do differently that maybe some of these other local districts are not doing. How can we make sure that we become the premier school district that people want to work at and be that employer of choice, specifically in Rapid City as well.
And in terms of retention, not recruitment, how are you feeling this year compared to last? Just where we were at this point.
When you look at retention, the numbers in comparison, we're probably about the same that we were last year. One of the things that I've tried to impress upon my group is I don't want human resources to follow lockstep with everybody else in K-12 saying, well, we have a teacher shortage. There's really nothing we can do about it. We can't accept that. We have to set ourselves up to be successful and find ways to fill those teacher positions, those para positions, but more importantly, retain them. And what is it that we're going to do? Obviously, we had a lot of positive things come out of the negotiated agreements this past year, specifically for the para educators. And so hopefully that will be something that will be a key in retention because they're now in a position where their compensation is much more competitive and that they're not going to be looking to leave to find a position that may be paying them another 50 cents or 75 cents an hour type of thing. So I think that's going to play a huge role in those particular groups, bus drivers, bus aides, et cetera, the same thing, that we address those issues with the compensation and that now hopefully that will be sufficient with them to want to stay with the district and not look for another position that's going to get them another 50 cents or so.
Right. Mr. Swan.
Thank you, President Carr. Hi, Gary. How's it going?
I'm doing well, sir.
I wore my Penn State shoes too. I'm kidding. I just have a question. I know, when we talk about the teacher and para task force, we've been, the meetings that the meeting that we have had, I know we're talking about some things about possibly, leave, all of that stuff. How's our sub pool looking? I mean, is this a time to start recruiting for that as well? I mean.
Absolutely. And the sub pool being, again, one of those areas that I feel like we should be hitting the home slice media advertising to bring and raise the level of awareness for the need of substitutes within the district. Because as you know, that's going to play an important role as it relates to the leave issue that we've been talking about through that task force. Substitutes can be a little bit challenging from the sense that they kind of work when they want to work and they can maybe dictate in a way that sometimes doesn't necessarily help, saying that I would only sub at this particular school or for this particular subject or what have you. But quite honestly, in the position we're in, we're willing to take that. It's better than nothing. And then just try to, again, creatively work with those individuals to maybe incentivize them, say, hey, can you expand your horizon here a little bit? Maybe do try a couple other schools or subjects or what have you. But the substitutes, it is a challenge. There is no question about that. And again, we need to do a better job, I think, of really letting people know that being a substitute can be very rewarding. It isn't as cumbersome to become a substitute as it is a teacher to be certified by the state, et cetera. And really hone in on those things, because I think sometimes the misconception is I have to be a certified teacher to be a substitute. And, and sometimes we may lose out on people because of that misconception, perhaps.
Thank you, Gary.
Mm-hmm.
All right, anybody else? All right, Mr. Manuel and I will soon announce District Sock Day, and he and I are into socks. So yeah, here are mine for today. So we're going to institute that day district wide. All right. Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Hello. So I'm Kira Comer. I've been in the district a very long time. So out of 26 years of my experience, I'm starting my 26th year. 18 of those have been in Rapid City. So that's kind of interesting. I am just finishing up my first year as special ed program manager and moving into director of special services. So I'm very excited about that.
Congratulations.
Little bit about our program. Our child count runs about 2,000 to 2,100, give or take, the time of the year. So that gives you an idea of how many students that we service throughout our district, all the way from birth up to 21. Within that, we service our students of the birth to 3 program who are more the prolonged assistance, who have those more significant disabilities. We have some play groups that we service them throughout the year. We have our 3 to 5 screenings, and then we have our preschool programs. Also this year, we will have 5 preschool programs. Last year we were to 4, so I'm excited about that. Within our elementary, middle school, high school programs, we have been able to add in a couple district programs this year, which has been nice. We added in a middle school structured academics, which is serving those students who are mild to moderate disabilities that need more of that structure within the special ed environment. And then we also are starting a K-1 program for structured academics as well. So that puts us up to, if we're fully staffed and all the other programs, about 44 district-wide programs. So I thought that was pretty good news to share. We service students anywhere from mild disabilities all the way up to significant training and different things like that. You guys had hit that. Our 2 program managers that we just hired, Cher Daniel and Mercedes Borgen, we've been really working together trying to figure out what's our long-term goal for our program. And so we're starting out kind of short-term for what's our 1-year goal and then what's our 5-year goal. And so we're just starting to work on that and really focusing on that student pillar of how we can kind of tag into that piece of things. So we've really narrowed it down to working on culture, that professional development, documentation and compliance, and then staff retention. So those are our areas that we really want to focus as we go throughout this next school year and on to the future years as well. And I don't really know what else to tell you guys about special ed because there's a lot I could tell you.
Any questions? Now, when you talked about preschool programs, that's special ed preschool?
Correct. Thank
Okay.
you for asking that question. I know there's been different rumors that, Rapid City's not servicing preschool students anymore. That is not correct. We are servicing students who are identified for special education in preschool.
Okay.
When we were short preschool, a preschool teacher last year, we had to take away that integrated piece of preschool. It broke my heart. I had to make a lot of very difficult phone calls to parents telling them that their student couldn't come anymore. As we ended the year, each of those 4 rooms, we had probably 130 students on an IEP for preschool that were getting services from us. So to add on to those 4 classrooms, it just would have been very difficult. I'm hoping with one of our indicators for preschool, it's indicator 7, it looks at the outcomes of here's where the child's skills were going into the preschool program. Here's where their skills are coming out of the preschool program. We have not met every targeted area over the past couple of years, which that's pretty much statewide. I'm really hopeful to see what this next year numbers look like to show that, okay, we shortened narrowed our classroom size down so we can have more individualized attention to those students' needs. So it'll be interesting to see how that turns out.
I think Mr. Swan, your hand is old. That's okay. Ms. Zerbe.
Thanks, Kira. How many kids were impacted in that integrated preschool? How many kids were not or did not have disabilities that were?
I think I made phone calls like 50, 60 phone calls. Yeah, again, they were not very fun phone calls. Our goal is that starting next school year that we'll be back to integrated. We could really use another preschool teacher and have 6 preschool teachers within the district. So 5, we'll see how that goes. And our numbers in the 3 to 5 programs are significantly increasing. And the needs of those students are getting more significant. So we want to make sure we meet those needs.
Thank you.
I do have, at what point in the educational system is a child identified as special needs. So if it's preschool, I'm assuming that's pretty young. Where is that identification made and who makes that identification?
So Child Find goes all the way from birth to 21.
Okay.
So it's our responsibility as a district to seek out and search students with disabilities. The birth to 3, we have Black Hills Birth to 3, that's out of Black Hills Special Services. So they kind of start that assessment process. Most of the students in that birth to 3 realm are gonna get community services. It's called Part C. And then if they have a significant disability or a certain qualification area, then they're called prolonged, and so we would service them. We provide screenings throughout the school year for our 3 to 5 population. And then we get a lot of referrals from doctors, from parents, from teachers. We get referrals from just about anywhere. And then it is our duty to kind of review all the data and is there a suspected disability that we need to consider and proceed.
And I would just say that continues all the way through. When I was at the Alternative Academy, I referred students and we found sometimes that they were in need of services, even as old as that student being 16, 17 years old.
Correct.
Right, thank you. Ms. Stephenson.
Yeah, can I ask a follow-up on that? Because we did hear on our teacher forum some stories from teachers about trying to get a kid evaluated for an IEP, trying to get them on an IEP, getting them assessed in it, and it taking years, like from a couple, like it didn't happen quickly. Was that story a fluke? Is it harder once you're in the system to get referred and evaluated and set up?
It's a double-edged sword because you don't want to over-identify a student and assume they have a disability. Testing a student for special education is very intrusive. You're pulling that student out, you're taking them away from their classroom time. So you don't want to test just to test. And so I think our teams do a really nice job of looking at what does the data that we have in front of us tell us. We have a lot of screening things that we show within our district, all the way from Acadience to MAPS to SAT. I mean, we review all of that information whenever a referral comes and look at where are they progressing? So if they're progressing, is that a learning disability? If they are stagnant, how far behind are they? Not every student who has a difficult time in education has a special education disability. And so again, those teams do a really nice job of really looking at which students should we be considering for a student with a disability.
So if a teacher refers a kid for an evaluation, that goes to that team and they decide, they review the data.
If
a parent refers a kid, then you have to evaluate, is that right?
We do not have to evaluate if a parent requests an evaluation. We have to address their concern and have a referral meeting and do the same thing. We review all of the data and we have to let them know in writing whether we're accepting it or rejecting it. There's a lot of teams that will, and parents too, that will be like, I want something to happen. And once the team starts talking about what, we have WIN cycles, we have this intervention that we can use, we have this, they're like, that's exactly what I wanted. I wasn't looking for the special education service. I just wanted to make sure we were intervening on a service. So those communications are really important between the team, parents, and everybody to really say, what is the concern? And how do we need to address it? And again, if there's that suspected disability, then we would go on for testing.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, any more? Seeing no hands. Thank you very much. It's wonderful. Appreciate that. All right.
Mr. Bishop Carr, Mr. Taken Alive had taken today and Friday off, and he is traveling, so he won't be here.
Okay, all right.
But we do have Bobby yet, I believe.
Well, that's right.
Me.
Bobby's a manager.
Yes.
No.
Hi, board. I'm Bobby Schaefer. I'm the Community Relations Manager. I'm not a director, but I do have a seat at District Direction Leaders, so I do join those meetings every week. Thank you to, I believe, Katie Urban for advocating for my position and getting me a seat at that table. My position, I deal with communications with staff, families, and the community. I handle press and media for the entirety of the district. I manage parts of the website for rcas.org. Some other managers within RCAS manage their own pages. I dabble in graphic design when needed, and I manage all social media for the district as well. And I had to mention all other duties as assigned. And I just wanted to also touch base a little bit on the marketing portion that Gary had mentioned with Home Slice, because I figured there'd maybe be some questions regarding that. So far with the Home Slice marketing, I just wanted to share numbers. For bus drivers, for applications, we have received 26 applications. For student nutrition, which was not necessarily advertised, we have received 26 applications as well. For the para position, we have received 29, and for the team cleaner position, we have received 45. As far as conversion from those applications, I only have one number to report, and that is for the bus drivers. They have hired 4 people to help cover next school year, which is fantastic. So, yeah, that is kind.
Has all of those applications been processed and we know whether they're going to?
So the way these applications work is it is an easier way for these positions to apply. It is not the true application for RCAS through Skyward, but it is a form on our website where we can collect their name, phone number, email, and then reach out to them, get them in the door, have the conversation, and then also assist them with the Skyward application. Little bit easier because we did see there were some barriers for getting that application done for those positions. Any questions?
I did. You wear a lot of hats.
Yes.
That's a long list. Do you feel like you have an adequate budget, since we we don't direct budget, but I'd just like to know, do you have enough money to do what you need to do?
I believe so, yes. I do think some reconsideration, sorry, Coy. If we are going to move forward with doing marketing for recruiting staff, there could probably be a little more money put into it. With the outcomes that we are seeing right now, it is great. And I believe if we're going to do this year long, so the Home Slice contract will be up in 4 weeks, and we did allocate the 50 grand to that, and that took that entirety of that budget. So yes, that is, I believe we could use a little more money.
Okay, so can you? How does she request that? How is that requested?
Sorry, Coy.
Bosses, by the way. Oh, big boss.
Yeah, I share some thoughts. I think that zooming out from that specific question is necessary in this situation, because I think we as a district are really hitting this very pivotal moment in history where we must move away from this is how we've always done it. And that encompasses all things, in my opinion, including how we approach the idea of marketing our district to potential employee candidates. And that's very different from where school districts have been in the past, or most school districts. And so I think as we continue to evolve and figure out what this is going to look like, and those are really great numbers. I mean, I think if you were to compare those to numbers a year ago, they would probably look very, very different. And so I think there's a couple of layers of things that need to happen, however, to ensure that we are making good investments is analyzing the activity it's driving versus the effectiveness of how we are seeing results in that situation. And you know, it's an expensive process. $50,000 to run those ads for a short period of time. And as I understand it, that was the sweetheart deal of sweetheart deals. I mean, it was a lot of free media. And so I think we'll get better and better as we continue to figure out what we're doing in this sort of new landscape of marketing. So that was a really long political answer. I guess the short answer to your question would be, of course, as we look at budgeting and we set aside funds, We always have the ability to amend budgets and bring additional funds in. Of course, with the understanding that that has to be offset by revenue from somewhere. And so then we're pulling over either additional money from reserves or from capital outlays. So there's a lot to keep in mind, but I think that certainly if we determine that this has been a successful approach to marketing and recruiting, that we should continue to look at investments into that area. And we have the capability of doing that really at any point in time.
So Bobby, basically what he said is no right now,
Yes.
but come back when you can prove that it's worth.
I think
the
it's
money.
also important right now to mention that marketing is expensive right now because of the election coming up. So it is hard to get spots on air and on TV and all of that. And the timeline as well, right? Something that we discussed in the Home Slice meeting is this isn't necessarily when we would want to market these jobs because we don't have things for them to do right away. So we get them in the door and we hire them, but they can't start until August. So this isn't the ideal time, but there was no chance that we would be able to buy any spots of TV commercials or radio ads because of the election coming up. So, yes.
All right, let me look at my hands. Was that you, Mr. Berkland? Okay, Mrs. Urban.
Okay, so I would just advocate for Bobby in terms of a budget. Our district's budget is for marketing and communications in general is incredibly small compared to like-sized districts. I mean, almost non-existent. So they say it should almost be like 1%. And I think it's crazy in some, but in other districts, they have school choice and things like that. And so it's become this thing where you shouldn't just be marketing for employees anymore. You should be marketing for students as well. And I would encourage you guys to really think about that when you're thinking about Home Slice and all these other ways, or just what we can use for the platforms that we already have to also market for students. Because if we're able to attract 10 new students, that takes care of your marketing budget. So, and you're gonna need more money for if we look at doing a bond. You're gonna need like all kinds of money to just really get the information out about what we want to do. I think that's it. Thank you.
Thank you.
So Bobby, what that means.
That's Boy,
Yeah.
what that means is I need more money. Just kidding. All right.
I love it.
Thank you, board.
Okay, any questions? All right, seeing none. All right, thank you, Bobby. That was wonderful. All right, anything else for any directors? All right, directors, thank you. I think that's all we have for you. Appreciate your time of your day. Thank you. Yes, yes. We're gonna take I like pounding my gavel. Let's take a 3-5 minute break. Okay, let me set the stage. It's 2:33 now. I personally have to leave at 4:30. Shirley, is it possible that you can take us to 3? You have, okay, so if you take us to 3 and then, I think, Mrs. Parker said that she needed about an hour. We should be able to get you all out of here by 4-ish. Does that work for everybody? Okay, all right, thank you. Yeah.
Okay, on the top, I put 4 sheets of paper so you can take notes, but obviously it's a little backwards, so. As you take those off and just follow me through my booklet. I've never done this before in 18 years, so this is kind of nice to be able to explain to you what I actually do.
All right, love it.
The first sheet is the board and, address and, did I give you guys one of the phone numbers? I hope I did. I didn't. I'll get it to you. Thanks, Shirley. I started the day off well. I'll get you one with phone numbers. I advise you guys to put everybody's cell phone number in there. So if you need to text, you can do that. Remember, you don't text more than 3 people. That's just kind of a note. And I will put the correct one in the box that I think. The next one is a schedule of the meetings. You'll be getting meeting invites from me, and if you set your computers correctly, they'll go to your Outlook and to your phone, but you have to have it set correctly. So I know Bishop Carr has a lot of trouble sometimes, it doesn't always get the meeting invites. So do watch for those. If you have any trouble, our technology would be glad to help you guys, because I do send out a lot of meeting invites and reminders, both for meetings, study sessions, committee meetings, and then just anything that we seem to have coming up.
Remind me to talk to you about
Do
exec.
make note of those,
Exec.
okay? But you'll have a copy of this in your binder as well. The next one is your blue sheet. This is your pay sheet. The first one for our new board members, I need the top filled out, and if everybody can always remember to put their name up, some don't, but put your name at the top. And then you'll always need to sign your name down here. And when you tip it over, you'll see that you need to put the date and the meeting that you're attending. It's not so much that you check which meeting, if it's a regular, special, or committee meeting, just put what it is. It's a regular board meeting, a special meeting, executive session, instructional council, whatever. I'll figure it out. Okay, and then I will fill this all out and submit it to payroll. In your book, you'll have a payroll sheet, and that sheet will tell you, we get paid every 2 weeks. You guys will be able to pay same pay period I am. And if you get your time sheet to me by Monday morning of a pay period, you will get your pay check on Friday. If you get it to me on Tuesday, sorry, you gotta wait 2 more weeks to get your pay period or your check. So, but I'll provide you with that time sheet or that pay period sheet. There's a yellow sheet in here. We have some board members that visit schools. Christine and Michael do this a lot, as with Jamie, that they'll take part in a concert, reading in a classroom, just various things, and they don't charge a fee for it. They just want to be part of the schools. And so those are non-invoiced fees. And if you feel so that you do want to donate that, this is not required, but if this is what you choose to do, please invoice those so we can keep track of what you're donating to your personal time on this sheet as well, because I've kept track of everything for our strategic plan on what board members have actually donated and what we've paid them for. But like I said, this is not mandatory. We cannot make you not get paid for what you are doing, okay? You get paid $75 for each meeting that you attend. The only thing that's different on that, if you guys, like today you went to lunch, you don't get paid for that because I paid for your lunch. Now you'll go to a conference, to the Associated School Boards. You will get paid the per day diem, even though we're paying for the room, you get paid mileage and you get paid meals, for that. And that is what you would submit to me on this here next sheet. Like I said, all of these will be in your book, but at least you know what you're looking for. Okay, which we pull something like this up. As far as mileage goes, I have a set mileage rate that the state provides. How far it is from pier to pier, how far it is from pier to Sioux Falls, and I use that set mileage rate when I do pay guys. Okay. If enough people go, they are welcome to fill out a district claim, or our district vehicle, and we can send you on a district vehicle too. If you do submit a claim either way, you have, and for driving, you have to provide me with a copy of your insurance card. That is required by our business office to give you.
Shirley, can I get clarity? I read somewhere that technically we could charge for mileage in town, like if we're,
That is a question you'll have to take up with Mr. Sass.
okay,
It gets pretty.
complicated.
I don't even charge mileage when I run all my errands for the district.
Yeah.
It just gets too hard.
Correct. No, I wouldn't either, but I saw that and I was like, oh, I didn't know that. So,
A lot of times what that means, and I think Bart can help me or quite too. That means we have a lot of people in town, a lot of our directors that go from building to building to building.
yeah,
All day long.
Yeah.
And so they do get mileage for their personal vehicles because they are putting. a lot of
Yeah.
miles on.
yeah.
But I'm not sure board members are ever charged or paid for using their vehicles for running to school. That, like I said, that would be a Mr. Sassy deal he would have to.
We probably wouldn't get it. He's kind of tight with the. tight
You
with
know,
the
that's
money.
certainly something we could look into, Bishop Carr.
Oh, they were talking about it today about liking slap fighting, right? Okay, I'm sorry, Shirley. Moving on.
Okay, the next sheet.
Oh, I did about the reimbursement, you know,
Yes.
I think I read somewhere, and I'm gonna betray that how closely I read the annual meeting items last night. But I think it was last year that I read that you can't charge for more than 2 a day.
We changed that.
Nope, that was
Okay, so
changed
this has
last
been
year.
Officially changed.
Yes, that's not, you would not find that in resolutions last night.
Okay, and we as a board have agreed that school visits, we can charge for.
Some people do, some don't invoice them. It's personal preference.
Okay, but it's acceptable.
It is acceptable.
Okay.
Okay. Okay, the next thing is a submission timeline. I know this probably isn't of any interest to you, but Bishop Carr didn't know exactly what the timeline is. He asked me about when we did the last agenda setting meeting, so maybe you guys should understand what we do. I have a submission timeline, which in effect affects the business office greatly, human resources and such. So they all have to set their deadlines behind mine so they can get all of their products or all of their claims and such to me by my deadline in order that I can build the agenda. I always ask, my deadline is the Monday of the week before our Tuesday meeting. And I know that sounds like a lot of time, but it isn't. It took me 2 solid days to build the annual meeting. It takes a lot of time. Sometimes we have some things that are just delayed a bit. Mr. Sassy's office is awesome about letting me know, his gals, if they've got a bid opening that we just have to do. And it happens for South Middle School or schools starting and a bid's gotta be opened. They'll get it to me late and I will work with that, but I just can't do it a lot. We try not to add anything other than an addendum that comes in Thursday at noon for HR. And that's really pertinent right now, hiring and getting people in the needed positions for the start of school. So I get all of those and they put them in a folder on a SharePoint for me, and then I go and build the agenda.
Can I give some background, Shirley? When I came in, I found out that by state statute, a school board has to post the agenda 24 hours before the meeting, right? So that's what the statute said. So when I came on, the agenda was being posted a week out.
Short of week.
Yeah, so I was like that. So we moved it back to Thursdays that we try, Thursday by
the end of the day, if I get the addendum on time.
Okay, so that's kind of our internal mechanism that we ask for, that we've set for ourselves, that the agenda is out Thursday by the end of day. And so then that's what Shirley's talking about. So for that to happen, then all the different departments have to get their items that they want on the agenda. And speaking of the agenda, one of the things that we don't, if a board member, if you want something on the agenda, you can put something on the agenda. All you have to know, all you have to do is let either myself, right now for regular meetings, the agenda meeting is going to be held by myself, the superintendent, Coy, and Shirley. In the past, it was just done by me and the superintendent, but Coy has items on the agenda and Shirley does the agenda. So it seemed to me to be more efficient if all four of us talk about the agenda. So that's new to what we're doing. So that's kind of how we get the agenda put together and out to the public.
And by having it posted at least by the end of Thursday or for sure early Monday or Friday morning, that gives you guys a good long weekend to get through that agenda. If you have questions, reach out to Mr. Sassy or Dr. Strasser with any questions you have so that they aren't brought up at the meeting and it makes the meetings longer. So.
The other thing too, I want to say, Donna and Katie, one of the things that's very helpful in staying up with knowing what to do. So when you get the agenda, I don't know if you've noticed, some of the line items will be in red. So if you click on those line items, then whatever information about that line is. And one of the things, if you have questions about an item, any department head is willing to, open to explaining whatever that agenda item is. And then Coy and I think Mrs. Parker, they send out what do you call what you send out?
Executive memo or.
Yeah, a memo, a recap of the agenda.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they will explain in more detail what some of the items on the agenda are.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, certainly. I think, the goal, the objective is to ensure meetings are efficient and hopefully short. There's always a lot of agenda items. And so that was the idea behind sending out those memos. Typically try to get them out at least 24 hours before because then it gives you some time with it. I didn't do a good job of that on the annual meeting because it was chaos, but certainly if you, just to reiterate what President Carr said, if you ever look at an agenda and have any questions or anything you want to talk about, feel free to reach out to myself or Corey or Kelsey. I know I speak for everyone when we say we would much rather answer your questions and have you feeling good about going into the meeting, understanding what's on the agenda than not feeling that way. So thank you, sir.
And if you watch, go ahead, Christine.
Oh, I just wanted to follow up with that just so you know, I think what's happened with this board, what I've heard happen is sometimes we'll have questions and we ask the questions and then we'll let them know, I might pull this from the agenda so that you can give that explanation publicly on the meeting, so, but even that, I feel like it's a nice thing to do to say, I plan to pull this. It's not because I disagree. I just want that out there. And I felt like that's been happening, so.
Then I put a copy of last night's agenda in here and I just kind of wanted to roll through a few of these things. Roll call. If somebody happens to be out of town and wants to join the meeting via Zoom, Please let Bishop Carr and myself know. You're certainly welcome to do that, but please know that when somebody joins via Zoom, all roll call votes, or all votes must be via roll call. So we do have to do roll call votes that way, okay? And sharing the success, if you're wondering how we come up with those ideas, there's a lot of good things happening in our district. And if you come up with ideas, please let me know. I got one last night, but I knew it because I'd seen it on television as well. When school starts, we'll have our Stevens debate team come because we had one of the national placers. And we have a lot of other things. There's been a lot of good things happening in our, with our custodians and cafeteria people.
Oh, wow.
Bus drivers in the district and all the hard work. So we'll be talking about that. But if you guys ever hear stuff, please bring that forward. Conflict of interest. Coy can probably explain this a little bit more, but we had a board member years ago that her husband owned an oil company here in town. And she had to sign a conflict of interest. And go ahead, Coy.
Yeah, so the conflict of interest for board members right now is really pointed at interest in businesses that are owned or affiliated with that board member or the board member's immediate family. And that was really sort of an aftermath of a situation that occurred about a decade ago now in the state, where there was a cooperative group in the eastern part of the state that had a really, really bad situation play out, and there were not proper control points for determining if board members had conflicts of interest. So I would say the biggest thing that's being that needs to be disclosed would be exactly that type of example. Has ownership interest, or immediate family has ownership interest in a business, and that business is directly doing business with the district and or responding to requests for proposals or those types of things. Even in that context, and I don't want to get too far into Kelsey's lane, so Kelsey, you feel free to stop me at any point, but even in that context, it doesn't prohibit that business from doing business with the district, nor does it prohibit them from responding to RFPs or RFQs. But having the disclosure out there and then generally having the board member recuse themselves from conversation or voting around those particular items is really what's required in those situations.
We have some examples that just happened a few weeks ago. Walt recused himself when we were talking about a bid because he also owns a clothing company. Michael will often recuse himself from anytime we're talking about negotiations because of a partner. Christine in the past recused herself for any time that we were talking about her employer and if there was a contract on. So it's just things like that. Yeah. Feel free to do that. That's not a problem at all. You just state why you're recusing yourself.
Yeah. And if you have a question about it,
yep,
or you think it's a gray area, certainly let us know so that yep, we can help you make a determination on that.
Kelsey is really trying to get our policies under control, and let me tell you, they need it. And we have 3 members on the policy committee. We happen not to have any with the first reading this time. That always happens right after conflict of interest. And so there's the first reading on policies and procedures. Exhibits technically don't need to have a reading. Sometimes if it's tied together, we just run all 3 of them through. But anyway, that's where you would see those come up in the agenda. Agreements, it's a new place that we started putting those so that they don't get lost in the shuffle of the consent agenda. All agreements are run through a process by those 3 people sitting over there. The directors all have to go through a process of questions and stuff to make sure that everything is legit and the contracts are all okay before they come to us and we put them on the agenda. Contracts, you'll often see things from South Dakota High School activities. That's the annual thing that we do. Nothing new there. We will have a busing agreement that we will be taking forward next meeting, hopefully, with Rhapsody Area Schools, because we will be busing children into Meade County. We had one, Meade County comes into Rapid City School District. So Coy is looking into that right now. We don't often have items for board action, but Coy, put all the annual budget. It's just things that we don't want to put in the consent agenda that are just need to be standalone. So you'll see that under items for board action.
Sure.
They're separate items.
Shirley, can I go back up to the consent agenda?
Sure.
And just for clarity, there's no discussion on the whole consent agenda. It's just a motion, a second, and we vote. So if you want to talk about one of the items in the consent agenda, you have to request to pull it. And I will ask, is there any board member that wants to pull an item from the consent agenda? And so that's how you can discuss it. Otherwise, I know there was, and it's very important that you read, you do your homework and you read, because since there's no discussion, there was a situation that there was something on the agenda, a consent agenda, motion, voted, and a board member say, well, hey, when did that happen? Well, you're responsible for knowing what you're voting for on the consent agenda, so. Yeah.
So,
But that said, the idea of the consent agenda, tell me if I'm wrong, is that these are supposed to be daily operational things for the district that theoretically the board, it's like coming downstairs, to use your analogy, right? Like the consent agenda is the downstairs stuff so we read it, we know about it, but it's not meant to contain much that should be controversial or need a discussion. Is that the idea of how you decide what goes on the consent agenda?
Yeah, I would agree. I think the majority of those items are purely operational items. Again, that's been the idea behind separating out some of those things for specific board action, like we wouldn't want to include a budget in a consent because that's something that needs the board's attention, ensure there's discussion. Also separating out like the larger agreements from the consent agenda so that the board has the ability to see them as a separate item, have discussion, ask questions if necessary. So yeah, typically, what we're trying to put on the consent agenda are items that have been well vetted, they're operational type items. And hopefully we've done our due diligence up to the point of that meeting and helping you understand what those items are so that that they don't necessarily need to be pulled. Of course, as President Carr mentions, you could pull any item and ask additional questions if necessary, but that is the idea, I would agree, yeah.
And to save, and because all that saves time.
Yeah.
So if it's in an item, this particular item, board member's not here, so well, not Jamie. The particular item was putting me on the South Dakota board, right? So,
Yeah.
I mean, I wouldn't think that was much argument about that, so, and that board member didn't read it to see that that's what was on there, so they got caught off guard. Well, I mean, I don't know what to say about that. I mean, they have to read it, so that's why I make sure, Katie and Donna, that you all, make sure they read that to know what's going on. Okay, thank you, Shirley.
and then just lastly, here is the board committee assignments, and we'll go really through this fast because I'm infringing on Kelsey's time. The collaborative meeting group, or the Big Five as we call it, that is for our board leadership. That is where Mines, WDT, city, county, they all meet with the district and they're kind of updated. Instructional council, I put the dates they meet. They always meet the fourth Tuesday, except there's 2 days that they won't be meeting. Parent council is a noon meeting. It's half an hour rotation. You are on 3 times this time. If you cannot attend a meeting, reach out to somebody else that's on another week and ask if you can switch with them. That's your responsibility. But reach out, try and get somebody else to attend in your place if you can. The foundation, their dates are all listed here, and they do, some special events, Evening of Excellence, and the district opener, and everybody can attend those. So we will do quorum notices on that.
Which one?
For the foundation, Public School Foundation.
Oh, the evening
Yeah,
of
the evening of excellence.
Okay,
the
okay.
What did I say?
Yeah, I think he was thinking you meant every public foundation.
No.
Just their special.
No, there's special events, district opener and the evening events will, and then Title VI Parent Advisory Council. They're the third Wednesday of every month. On that one, they have the feathering ceremony. Everybody can attend that. We do, quorum notice for that, all the graduations and such as well. So this one with my name at it on top of it is the only one you can sign up for committees on.
Yeah.
None of those that you have in your hands, you can put your name on. This is the only one that President Carr will look at.
Yes,
Okay.
ma'am. Yes. And so board members, obviously at this point, there will be preferences. So even if there's more than three, if that's still one of your preferences, still squeeze it in there somewhere. And what's today? Wednesday. I'll try to have committee assignments made by Monday.
Are you doing leadership on Monday?
No, we're not. Yeah.
We decided.
So we're gonna talk about when it is, cause. we
Can you
may
come and
wanna-
talk to me on Monday then?
Okay, yes.
And we will have to schedule agenda setting on Thursday, Coy. Thank you.
Yes.
Okay, what is the,
BHSS co-op.
oh,
Plus
thank you for
P7.
bringing that up. Jim Hansen, Kate has served on that. In 1980, South Dakota legislature, put something through, and so there's 12 schools that belong to the Black Hills Special Services Cooperative. And you heard, Dr. Comer talk about that. That meeting is only once a month, and it's on the date that's listed. It is 1 hour. You can attend in person or via Zoom, via teammates, excuse me. I have the iPad in my office that they provide, and you're paid to do it. And then I think they have a social or something too. But it's,
It's just what's B7?
that's something they always put behind it. I can't tell you,
Oh.
Christine, what that means. But it's the 12 Northern Hills schools and Black Hills Special Services Cooperative. So I reached out to Dr. Haug today and he told me about it, so. Cause we've always had people on it that have been able to tell somebody else, and I wanted to be sure I was telling them right, but yeah. So that's a very easy one and he said it's very fun to be on. I know Jim and Kate have always liked to be on that one. So anyway,
And for another clarity, you see the ASBSD.
yes.
There are two positions. There's a board of directors, which I was initially on it, but again, if you read the you see that Jamie is now on the board of directors. And there's a different position called a delegate that the board has to vote to send a person to vote on statewide issue. And
Were you
so,
on that or were you a delegate?
yes, I was a delegate
Okay,
to that.
that's the one we need to fill.
Yeah, that's the one that needs to actually be voted on by the board, and it can be before, I think they meet in September.
We
So-
need to get it done though real soon, in August for sure.
Okay, well, so let's just say this, if you have an interest in doing that, put your name down and we can at the next.
And that position is all expenses are paid and
Yeah,
arranged for by Associated School
Yeah.
Boards. I don't do anything with that.
Okay, any questions about committee assignments?
I had a question about the delegate. So is that you just go and you vote on like legislative issues or,
Correct.
okay.
Yeah.
We'll have a meeting where we all discuss them and then we send you and say, here's what we want you to.
Do they do that like once a year or how?
Yes.
Okay, got it. Thanks.
But the meetings, went more than one time, didn't you, to meetings?
Mm-mm,
Was
not
it
for,
just-
as a delegate.
Okay, so pretty easy then.
Mhm. All right,
Okay, anything else?
They're not finance.
Yes, it's on there.
Budget monitor.
Yep.
Just one, really quick comment back to that delegate. I think President Carr did a really nice job with that. You all did a nice job of helping obviously develop the positions in terms of the different legislative items. But that's really, really important, especially for us right now in our unique situation as a district, even amongst the larger school districts in the state. We have a very unique position on a lot of that legislation. And I think it's so important that as a board, you all are expressing what your position is. Obviously, we're doing our work with the legislative folks, trying to help them understand, but it is extremely important right now for us to ensure that we're being heard and our unique position is understood amongst that delegation.
Yeah. And just another caveat with the board of directors, because of our district size, we have an automatic seat at that board. Other smaller districts vote on a representative for that district. So it's a unique position for us being our size that we have a permanent seat at the table. We did know, but previous boards chose not to want to participate that. And remember, there was, when I got on the board, there was talk about getting out of the ASBSD, so.
Along those lines, Coy, is there anything that we could do better or differently in preparation for the legislative session? Or is that something that the board needs to have a committee on, or?
I think that having good conversations as we're approaching those sessions, really understanding what the different hot issues are going to be. Of course, as we moved into this year, we knew with the teacher compensation bill expiring that was going to be a priority issue. I think understanding all those things, and as we are having those conversations, I think us helping to develop talking points for you as you're out influencing folks in the community, influencing legislative people is really important. I also think that a conversation that we've had a little bit in the past is something we should bring back, is continuing to explore the idea of bringing on our own lobbyist, specifically for Rapid City area schools. That's a very common thing. Sioux Falls has done that for years and years and years. Again, I think with the really unique set of circumstances that our district is experiencing right now, we really need, and I think it would be an excellent investment to bring on our own lobbyist and have that person during that time period helping us to influence those folks. I'm happy to reach out to Sioux Falls and get some more information on that. I know Kelsey could do that too. Their attorney works closely with the folks who are their part-time lobbyists, and bring you back some information about what that could look like, and just starting to get our arms around that idea. I think that could be really effective for us as well as a strategy.
That'd be a good study session time around whenever we need to talk about that and spend a couple of hours.
It's true, and I think this year you and Superintendent Swigert did a nice job of educating us as the session was going on, and so I don't have any complaints. I just always want to be looking towards being forward thinking about what might be coming down the pike.
Can I
Mr.
say-
Sassy, oh, go ahead, Katie.
I was also gonna say that just from what I've heard in conversations with legislators, if there's bills that you wanna look at or changes that you wanna make, the earlier you can get to them, the better. I mean, even if you're starting to talk and have conversations spring, summer, so that they can start drafting bills by fall. If you come and you have, like we used to do legislative breakfasts in November,
That's-
December, it's kind of like they're under the wire and it's not enough time. So I think giving them adequate time to really look into something, if there's an issue, start looking at it in the summer.
That's what I was just gonna ask Mr. Sassy, if it'd be better if we would have something right after we get school rolling, maybe.
Totally agreed. I think bringing those folks in and, for example, discussing the impact of SB 127, the teacher comp bill, and saying, hey, here's what happened. Here's how that affected us. The more often we can get that information in front of them and the more discussion we can have, the better. And I think that's a excellent point, like waiting until November, December timeframe is already way too late into that process. And again, I think having a lobbyist would really help us navigate through that process of, hey, we want to propose a change to a bill or whatever in that process that person could really help us navigate that too. But yeah, I think the earlier we can get them in and help them understand how these things are impacting us, the better off we are in those conversations.
Hey, Shirley, so you will make sure that we have that breakfast earlier than,
Well, we're gonna do some talking,
okay,
to get some dates.
okay. Right. All right, anything else for Shirley, old board members, anything else? This is orientation, so anything else, any suggestions that you can remind the rest of us on and inform our new board members about?
And I'll do a binder, as I said, and we can go through that when we have a retreat as well.
Yeah.
Just so you know, I love study sessions, and I think last year we kind of worked to at least a little bit in leadership to come up with some ideas for study sessions. Study sessions are nice because they are a little slightly less formal and we can ask a little more questions and it's a chance for us to learn what's happening in the district. So if there's something that you're like, I was on the campaign trail and all I heard about was behaviors, we should do a behavior study session and find out what things are like this year, what we're implementing, how things are changing. We are interested in, kindergarten readiness, and it sounds like there are some junior K programs that are gonna be implemented. I would like to have a study session on like what those are looking like, how it's going. And those are, so just if you hear things and wanna learn more, you can approach leadership, the superintendent, Coy, anybody to see what, or to get that idea on our minds.
And then the other thing that I mentioned it to Donna, but Katie, for you and for the rest of us to remember that you're not a junior board member, that we all have the same one vote. That one vote is just as powerful as my vote. There's been a misconception that the president has more power, but I have one vote. I have more responsibilities, but I just have one vote just like everybody else. So don't feel like you have to, give way to any, if you want to say it, boom, you say it. And this board is respectful of all opinions and all what you have to say. And so just be free to make decisions and voice your opinion like you want to. So I think that's very, very important. Yes.
I'd like a study session on your initialisms because I have heard 100 of them today and I got nothing. And y'all use them like I use OMG.
Yeah.
And so I am lost completely. So if anything you can do to help me with those initials,
We have a
would be
vocabulary.
wonderful.
That is
'cause it-
important.
It's just like, I got.
Acronym
nothing.
listing. Yeah.
Y'all
cheat
use them
sheet,
so
yeah.
well.
Yeah. And feel free to stop us if you don't know what.
Stop you every 5 seconds.
Well, okay, well, yeah, but no, we get it. We'll respect that and.
Yeah, we'll try and keep you up to date, but I would, there are plenty of times where I put up my hand and say, I don't know what that means.
Yeah.
Cause they're in the education world and they know all of those.
Yeah, I don't know what any of them.
Sure.
Yeah.
I think that's such a great point. And just a quick comment, I think that especially from my perspective, the financial aspect of this business is a monster and it is really difficult to understand. And my goal is always to have you equipped as a board member with a general understanding of what's going on and you feel like you can make a good decision. And I take that very seriously. And so if you end up not being on a finance committee or whatever, and you want to come in and learn more, I will always be open and happy to schedule time and go over whatever you want to talk about and I have a good amount of material already prepared because we've been doing this for a while, but it's really unique and there's a lot going on. So, and I know Corey would feel the same, Kelsey would feel the same. If there's stuff you want to learn more about, please feel free to reach out and we're always happy to accommodate that however we can.
One other thing about orientation, just like the school visits, obviously we can drop in anytime we want. As a courtesy, I try to email the principals and to ask for a good time, and I treat those as a chance to like, you know, have a conversation with the principal, what's going on in your school, what's good, what's bad, what's hard, and then get a tour. I don't know, I would like to do like a bus driver ride along,
Yeah,
is that? And, or like hang out in a kitchen or any of those things, cause every time you do something like that, you know better, you're just a better board member.
Totally.
I know that I like to let the principals know that I'm coming, but what about bus drivers or other support services? Do you prefer that we go through you? Do we?
Well, certainly you could reach out to me for their contact information, but I have no problem with you going directly to those folks. I would tell you, I told Bishop Carr this, and I know several folks have, board members have stopped by the warehouse and done different things, and they love that. And I think that they often feel like they're the unseen side of our operation, and so they love for board members to stop by. They love for board members to understand what their operations look like. They're very complex. There's a lot going on. So I know they would always be happy with that. And I'm happy to give you the contact info, and I know they would accommodate you anytime you want.
And I will be getting phone number lists to you as well, so that you can keep that resource as well. So,
thank you.
You again, you can reach out directly to those folks. I know they're always on top of their game, and they're always, you know, they're not gonna put on a different show because there's board members coming out. So feel free at any point. I know they would accommodate.
And then, I don't know, maybe as a board, if we wanna kind of say, if we arrange something like that, letting other board members know, so that we're not, so that the warehouse isn't getting 7 different visits. That might, I don't know, I'm not always good at doing that, but now that I'm listening, I'm just thinking about how we could be better.
Yeah.
That might be a nice courtesy.
may we go into executive session, please? I'm trying to watch out for Mrs.
Oh, I got her time. I kind of view it differently, that when I go, it's more personal for me just to go on my own and one-on-one, and not that I'm opposed, like if you call me and say I'm going, you wanna go with me, I'm fine. But for me, I just like, and with my schedule, I don't, you know, I can fit it into what I'm doing, so that's kind of what that's kind of what I do. Okay, if there's nothing else, I will entertain a motion to go into executive session.
I'll make that motion.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed, say no.